So yeah, this motherfucker. This is like a first edition Matrix DVD.
Tight.
We got this in 98 or 99.
Well, it came out in 99, right?
99, copyright 1999. Warner Brothers package, artwork, design, and summary.
Did you see it in theaters?
I saw it several times in theaters.
Whoa. And your parents had to bring you like every time?
Every time. Actually, one time I went with my parents, and then another time I went with my brother-in-law, Todd, who is older, obviously, so he could get me in. But I saw it basically as many times as I could.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, the Matrix.
Just trying to see that lady in the red dress over and over again.
Look again.
And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
I could schedule a private meeting with it if you'd like. I mean, why deny our human sensibilities and pleasures?
That really gave you a glimpse of where technology was heading.
It did. It did.
We're all just trying to get our private hour with the lady in the red dress.
A chilling prediction of what life would become post-Matrix.
Yes, absolutely.
Hi. Welcome to episode 30
Whoa.
of To Be Honest.
I'm
Addison.
I'm Jackson.
I'm Josh.
And
we're getting old.
We are getting old. Why do you guys have to fucking interrupt the monologue? And tonight we watched The Matrix, the seminal 1998 movie from Warner Brothers, directed by the Wachowski siblings.
They were, at the time, the Wachowski brothers.
At the time, they were the Wachowski brothers, but I'm really excited because this is actually Jack and Josh's first time seeing these movies because they're millennials. So I just wanted to open it up with you. What did you guys think of The Matrix?
What's a DVD? I think is the real question.
Is this like those digital downloads? Like they just give you a copy of the cover?
It's a digital video disc.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I never realized that's what it stood for.
Yep. So that's what it stood for. It was kind of popular in like the late 90s, early 2000s. There were little CDs, DVDs, like about that size. And you'd put them in a machine and the movie plays.
This is DVD. And this is what happens when you watch DVD.
Yeah.
Did we do that here?
Yes, we did, actually.
Oh, shit.
We did. And the interesting thing about the Matrix DVD is that it was the first DVD ever.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the only print of the movie.
It is.
It's the first and only.
And it's in your basement.
Yeah, so piece of history right here, everyone.
I have to
Take
say
a look.
this was our most impulsive movie choice.
This was definitely our most impulsive movie choice. We had no fucking clue what we were going to watch when we came down into the basement here tonight.
We're very inspired. We love doing this.
Super fucking inspired.
We really just had to drag ourselves down here, just make a decision.
And Jackson kindly pointed us to The Matrix. He said, what is this, Matrix? And I said, yes. And he said, I've never seen that before. Can we watch it, Papa? Matrix. I said, yes, my son.
I grabbed it off the shelf and ran up to you. Please, Papa.
I want to watch this one, Papa.
You're reading your newspaper, and I grabbed the newspaper down and waved it in front of you.
Pretend this is a newspaper, and I'm reading it.
Papa.
Yes, my son.
Matrix, Papa.
You were wearing a robe, right? I remember that being the weird part.
Yeah, the robe was open. It was flapping in the breeze.
Cigar.
Manscaping is
burning.
foreign to Addison.
Jackson saw everything.
I did.
He saw it all.
It's just, it was the times. You know, people didn't mind if their kids just saw everything.
We need to be more open about our bodies.
Yeah.
So we're buying time because we didn't watch the movie. Well, actually, I watched the movie. You guys didn't watch the movie.
Jackson watched the movie. Josh and I spent about fucking at least half of the movie setting up the lights and the cameras for you assholes that don't watch. For you assholes, Josh, Jack, and Addison, the only people who be watching this.
You guys are assholes.
Hey, Josh. How's it going?
So, anyways, yeah, we watched The Matrix. directed by the Wachowski brothers at the time. Now they're just the Wachowskis, but they've been the Wachowski brothers, the Wachowski siblings, and then now they're just the Wachowskis. And the reason for that is because they have both undergone gender transformations. It started with Larry, and then
Andy.
And then Andy. And I think that they are now Lana and Lily Wachowski, respectively. And can we just get a round of applause for the brave choice?
Do they still make movies?
Their most recent endeavor has been Sense8 on Netflix. It was
a show.
It was a show. It was a Netflix show that kind of had similar qualities to it, where there were like weird, like philosophical and metaphysical aspects to it.
You know what it means to be reborn, a sensate. A what?
But beyond that, they've really kind of made like a string of stinkers that kind of dirty their name in Hollywood.
Did they do anything before The Matrix?
They did. So basically, The Matrix was bought in a group with 3 scripts that they had written. The other one, well, the one that we would know being Bound. And they made that movie before The Matrix. That's with Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly. Also, Joe Pantaloons is in it as well. And then he reappears in The Matrix as Evil Man. But Bound is about these 2 women, Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly. I believe it's Jennifer Tilly who's in a relationship with Joe Pantaloons. And then she starts a lesbian relationship with Gina Gershon, and they decide, hey, let's rob this fucker that you're with, and let's make out with the money. And actually, it's not a bad movie. I watched it in a film noir class at Metropolitan State University. Professor James Aubrey, maybe doctor, I don't know, who was
Doctor.
Eternally horny. He was eternally horny, and Bound provided everything that he wanted from a noir film, which was lesbian sex, murder. Anyway, so they made Bound. It was actually a critical success. I'm not sure how much of a commercial success, but after Bound, then they had a little bit more clout, and they said, hey, you have The Matrix, we would like to direct that also. So they ended up directing the film for Warner Brothers, and importantly, it was produced by Joel Silver, who is most famous for putting nipples on the Batsuit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Batman Forever and then Batman and Robin, which was the Val Kilmer and George Clooney Batman films, respectively, once again, that totally fucking blew everything that Tim Burton had built with Batman and Batman Returns.
Oh, there's no nipples
Quite
on
the
this
collection we
Batman,
have back here.
We have references for all of this. So anyways, yeah, so Joel Silver directed it, and then Joel Silver went on to direct, or excuse me, Jesus Christ, Joel Silver produced it, and then Joel Silver went on to produce a few other films for Warner Brothers, probably the most famous of which is called Swordfish, and it has Hugh Jackman and what's his name, the closeted homosexual Scientologist.
Tom Cruise?
No, the other one.
Will Smith?
John Travolta.
Yeah, John Travolta.
That's right.
And Halle Berry. And actually, that was the first movie that Halle Berry had ever exposed her breasts.
Doesn't she show her cooter in it?
She doesn't show her cooter. Actually, no, she may have exposed her breasts in Monsters Ball with Billy.
Oh, I think you're right. That sex scene on the couch.
The sex scene on the couch. Make me feel good.
Make me feel good.
If you haven't seen Monsters Ball, check it out. But Swordfish, no, she was like sunbathing, and then she like pulls back, and you just see these titties. And I remember,
do they bounce?
They do. They tumble out as if it were an anime. Tumble out. And this is embarrassing, but I'll tell you guys anyway. When I got the Swordfish DVD, I had just gotten a new DVD player in my room where you could set like a repeat function. So you could set like a beginning and an end of a scene.
Whoa.
Let's just say I got a lot of use out of the 9-second or so clip of Halle Berry exposing her breasts and Swordfish.
Talk about technology running wild and rampant.
His hand is still chafed to this day.
Look at these calluses. All right.
Date.
So anyways, they directed this movie, And I think that it was, so they had someone do like an insane 600 storyboard workup for it because Warner Brothers didn't have a lot of confidence in the project. But once they saw these storyboards, they were like, okay, go ahead and do it. And there was some pre-production trouble. Keanu Reeves, namely, actually got injured quite a bit on set. He had to have like hip surgery. He had a fused vertebrae or something like that from it. Because they, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. The Wachowski brothers bring a lot of influences to this movie, like a lot. But predominantly they are Japanese manga and anime and Hong Kong action films. And so they were such big fans of Hong Kong action films that they had this prominent Hong Kong director, I think Yuen Chu Park, I think that's his name. He did all of the fight scenes, and so they were all on like wires, right? And they're flying through the air, and they're kicking and they're punching. And at some point, Keanu Reeves injured his hip, he injured his back. But being the trooper that Keanu Reeves is, he insisted on continuing training even though he was injured. And then, what a guy! And then you have kind of the amazing, breathtaking fight scenes that The Matrix is famous for.
Did he hurt his hip when he like bent all the way backwards and was dodging those real bullets?
No, because he was on wires. But there was that one scene where he like kicks the guy and then he slowly moves his leg back. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He does like a roundhouse. That's because he had limited motion in his hips when he was recording that scene, and that's why it looks so weird and kind of, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Cool, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Thanks for watching. Let's start with what's happening in this movie.
Do we need to explain what's happening in this movie? I mean, I think everybody knows what the fuck happens in The Matrix.
I think it's the best part of the movie is the story behind what, I guess like the setting of the story.
Yeah. I mean, what is this movie other than kind of a collection of ideas? It doesn't necessarily have a consistent narrative flow or plot. Like, Guy realizes that there is hackers out there that want to know him. Hackers reveal that world is not real. He wakes up from Unreal World. He goes back to Unreal World and kills computer viruses or computer enforcers for
alien computers, right?
So the backstory to it, and this is where I would like to talk about the Animatrix a little bit, but the backstory to it is that humans developed machines. The machines advanced at such a rate where they were out of control, right? And so then they came to be at war with the humans, and it came to be that the humans decided to block out the sun, which was the machine's primary energy source. And so what the machines did is they said, well, fuck you. We're going to turn you into human batteries, basically, and we're going to put you in these tubes, and you're just going to, fund our lifestyle. They were kind of like the Magnesis subscribers to Billy McFarland.
Who's that?
They already know because they already obviously watched with rapt attention our previous episode about the Fire Festival.
That hasn't been put out yet.
That got put out just now.
Yeah. Go check out your YouTubes.
You know what they don't explore really at all is like the idea of like the robots taking over. They're kind of just like, that happened. It's not like, oh, we developed AI and it became rampant.
That's what makes the Animatrix so brilliant. And specifically the 1 or 2 shorts, which is basically about the history of the Matrix, that shows like how we developed these robots. They were essentially our servants at first, and then once they had taken too much abuse, they revolted. And there is some just like really brilliant visual storytelling in this particular one, and it's done. I may have to have Daniel correct me on this, but I feel like it might have been done by one of the creatives behind Akira.
Oh.
Or maybe Ghost in the Shell, one of those really prominent animes from the 90s. But the backstory is, so they revolted against us, everything that I just said. They turned us into batteries. But it's really profound and kind of quiet and subtle the way that they do it in the Animatrix. And I would have to say that my appreciation of the Matrix was definitely heightened by the Animatrix. I think that thing is really good. And I would recommend it. Have you guys seen it?
I said a long time ago I want to rewatch it.
Yeah. It's
I
worth
remember
it.
it being like a lot darker.
It's significantly darker, far more violent, or at least graphically violent. But unlike The Matrix, and this is something that we can talk about, unlike The Matrix, I felt like the violence in the Animatrix had actual consequences and weight, whereas the violence in The Matrix now is almost cartoonish in how it's presented. Obviously, it was groundbreaking for the time in which it was made, but now watching it, I mean, we were all kind of like laughing at what was going on. Not only because we live in a world in which mass shootings, of which this is almost an example of, are like commonplace. And so watching this, it almost gives you kind of like an ooky feeling. I don't know. Am I alone in that? Sorry, I've been talking a lot.
Hey man, this guy fucking loves the
Fuck
Matrix.
them robots.
This fucking robots remind me of Columbine. I mean, that scene, the big scene where he goes into the tower and he like goes through the little metal detector. Yeah, that like the boots, the shot of the boots, stepping into the tower. It's like,
Wasn't that like apparel, like a actual inspiration for the Columbine shooters apparel?
The trench coat, yeah.
The
So
trench coat, okay.
there was like the trench coat mafia at Columbine, and basically what that was is they all wore long black trench coats, and Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, who were the perpetrators of the Columbine massacre, were in the trench coat mafia. They also liked Marilyn Manson and the video game Doom, and several other properties that they had referenced in their like manifesto, and so all of those people came under fire.
yeah, definitely.
Sorry, that's a really bad way to put it.
Wah, wah. Yes.
So, yeah.
Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for canceling us.
Yeah, I guess I got that vibe. The action was, it still holds up. I think you have to like look through it, or look at it through a lens of, this was made in 1998, came out in 99, and they're not trying to wow you with the action. I think they're more so using it as like a vehicle to tell a story of how you can manifest and become greater than your reality.
I completely disagree with you. I think that they were absolutely trying to wow you with the action scenes.
Oh, well then they failed.
But when you first watched this movie, you were wowed by it.
I can't say. I don't remember. Probably. But
Did
I was
you
like
see it in theaters?
7 years old. I don't know if I saw it in theaters. No, I was like,
I don't remember if I did
I was
either.
like 6.
Actually, I know I didn't, because my parents wouldn't let me watch it. Even after it came out on DVD, and all the kids were just like, "Look, it's like the Matrix,"
everyone's going like,
Yeah.
So did you guys see this after it became a cultural phenomenon? Like, you weren't necessarily on the crest of the wave,
Yeah,
so
I
to
saw it
speak?
like way after, because I wasn't allowed to. I think I saw it. I just saw it on TBS one day. Like it was just one of those movies TBS would just like replay over and over again.
I remember having it on DVD and watching it. I don't know how old I was, probably like 10 or so. But I think by that time, it's like 3 or 4 years after the movie came out, and it probably took storm by then, and so it was already in my daily life. But yeah, so I think I was a part of it. I don't know if I saw it like when I was like 20 or anything. I definitely saw it when I was young, a youngin', if you will.
Do you like this movie, Josh?
I don't want to comment.
Get a little closer there, baby.
Let me tell you guys. Let me say something. So you don't think? Wait. So the action was supposed to wow you? I don't buy that.
That was what audiences and critics pointed to when this movie first came out, is mind-bending action scenes.
I guess it is like surprising and different.
Well, so here's what The Matrix did is so in Hong Kong cinema, John Woo specifically, you had these action films where doves would fucking fly in the air and people
Wong Kar-wai
would jump through the air in slow motion and they'd be
We'll edit that to make it look cool.
it'll look sexy.
Dun.
But what this movie did is it took that idea, westernized it just a little bit, and popularized it. But it actually created the term bullet time, which went on to become a staple of video games and other movies. This idea of action slowed down, but the camera moves freely within the action. So you have this slow motion, but you have pans and you have all these other camera effects, and that was fairly groundbreaking. But especially because it was for a Western audience who previously hadn't really consumed much of that Hong Kong cinema. So yeah, Josh, to answer your question,
but you're disagreeing with my argument that the action was used to act as a metaphor.
You didn't even. First of all, you didn't make that argument, and second of all, action is used as a metaphor. What are you talking about?
So that you can manifest yourself, so that you can alter reality. The action is purposefully outlandish to drive that element forward. I made that argument. We can go back. Can we get back, please? I think they're more so using it as like a vehicle to tell a story of how you can manifest and become greater than your reality.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's a fair point. Yes, the action is outlandish, but you have to remember that this was 1998.
Yeah, and speaking of 1998, I'm reading on the back of this DVD. Case web events and chat room access. Exclusive chat room with celebrity guests and other special events.
www.whatisthematrix.com.
Did you log in there?
No, we should.
What is the Matrix?
What is it? No. So obviously these were kind of overstated action scenes, but
yeah, I guess the choreography and all that. There's really good choreography of the fight scenes. Maybe I'm just removed from it. I'm really used to like silent dramas
about divorce,
about
and
lesbians,
infertility, and lesbians.
I just don't need bullets. Sorry, I'm sophisticated.
Well, so one of the common critical complaints with this movie when it came out is that all of its philosophical ideas, which we can get into a little bit if you want, all of its philosophical ideas were undermined by the action. So to your point, yes, perhaps the action is a little outlandish. It might be a little bit overdone. But I think what that goes back to is the fact that the Wachowskis had so many influences going into this movie. There were so many other works upon which The Matrix stands that there's no way that it wouldn't have been kind of confusing tonally and thematically.
Well, it feels like the movie diverges. You know, the first, I guess, third of the movie, not even the first half, is driven by the philosophical question of like, what is your reality? You know, question your reality because, you know, it could just all be a simulation. You know, they offer Neo the choice to, you know, wake up in his bed or wake up from the simulation. And then once you get him like downloading how to do kung fu, it definitely like turns into
Jiu-jitsu?
more of
I know how to do jiu-jitsu.
Combat training. Jiu-jitsu. I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu. Holy shit.
Whoa, just downloaded jiu-jitsu.
what's the line? He's like, he's been in there for 10 hours.
Just mastering jiu-jitsu.
Look at how fast he is.
And that I think that's the turning point for that movie, where it just becomes like more of an action flick than a you know, philosophical ponderous film.
Yeah, it definitely takes a back seat. about like a third of the way through.
Like, they don't really even explore the idea of the Matrix that much after that. It's more of along the lines of Neo, like, coming to terms with his identity and fighting agents.
The movie becomes fairly basic. After a lot of these interesting ideas are introduced, then it's the same plot as countless video games and countless other movies of the one must realize his potential. How will he do it?
Fulfill the prophecy.
Yeah, fulfill the prophecy. She just told you what you needed to hear, Neo.
She told me I'm not the one. She told me I had to make a choice.
She told me I would fall in love with the one.
Do you guys want to know what it was like in 1999 when The Matrix came out?
No.
Y2K was coming. You were terrified that the computers were going to kill you.
Truly, we were all hugging our water bottles in the basement nightly, just thanking God for their existence. No, The Matrix came out, and it made a lot of people think about technology in a different way. One of the things about this movie...
Like how you could jerk off.
Like
in different ways.
We were
in different ways.
We were just glimpsing the surface of all the different ways. One of my favorites when I was like 11 was this one.
Oh yeah, yeah. Rub it around.
Like I was trying to start a fire.
Did you ever get the crease in your elbow?
So, anyways, I was riding the bus to school.
Oh my!
And this was middle school.
Okay.
I was riding the bus to school, and this guy he had his Sony Discman, and I was like,
jerking off.
What are you listening to? No jerk off joke. And I was like, what are you listening to? And he was like, oh, it's the Matrix soundtrack. And I was like, what? and he put the headphones on my head, and I was like, bird to the witches and sad to the... And I was just like, yes. I was like, where the fuck did you get this? Did you buy this? Did your parents buy this for you? It has a parental advisory. How did you do this? And he's like, no, bro. This guy up in the second row. Talk to him.
Whoa.
So I went and I talked to this guy, and I said, I heard you have, like, the Matrix soundtrack,
Did
or you
he
can get people the Matrix soundtrack?
Reach out 2 hands. He's like, you can take the red pill or the blue pill.
No, he said, give me $10 and I'll burn the Matrix soundtrack for you.
Oh, so
the blue pill was
he just
Nora
offered you
Jones.
copyright infringement.
Exactly.
Okay.
But he had his game dialed in. Not only did he scan in the CD booklet, so maybe what millennials don't know is that CDs often came with booklets that would fold out. They were like linear. They were
Did he like
square,
print his
square,
own off?
He scanned in the fucking booklet, printed his own off, and then he even scanned the front of the album and bought like CD label stickers from Best Buy and put them on there. I mean, it was a professional package.
This guy's in prison
For $10.
Absolutely, he is. He's absolutely in prison at this point.
Is his name Billy McFarlane?
It was Billy. He hooks my crown too. No, but
Whoa.
but
That's a deep cut.
I got that. That was a deep cut. He burned it for me. I paid him the $10. I think I mowed a lawn for it or something like that. And that motherfucker, that Matrix soundtrack, stayed in my Sony Discman for months. I mean, you had Rob Zombie on there. You had Marilyn Manson on there. You had, I don't know, techno people.
Rage Against the
I think the
Machine.
Chemical Brothers were on there.
It's like a school shooters playlist.
What's the school shooter mixtape? But no.
So what are you saying? What is the point of this?
The point of this is that the Matrix had this huge cultural splash that was almost unprecedented. I mean, you had Star Wars before it. You had maybe Jaws, maybe. But as far as like the merchandise tie-ins and all of that, as well as the impact and the influence, the Matrix is a hodgepodge of ideas. It comes from like 40 or 50-year-old philosophical ideas from Jean Baudrillard and Jean-Paul Sartre.
Some Nietzsche.
A little bit of Nietzsche in there. Lots of, and also Eastern philosophical ideas. And then you have Hong Kong movies. You have anime. You have Western action movies. But what's interesting is that even though this thing is a hodgepodge of ideas, it is arguably the most influential film of the last 20 years, probably. Or wait, let's see. It's 2019.
That's 20 years.
2009. Yeah, no, 20 years. Actually, we're probably talking about this pretty close to the 20-year anniversary. But I mean, what do you guys think about that? As far as it was its own collection of influences, and yet it influenced things almost immeasurably moving forward.
Well, I think that maybe it influenced things in a bad way, where it.
Are you talking about the Red Pill subreddit?
No, I was speaking of movies in particular, where it basically was just like special effects can be a plot to a certain degree. Like if you look
That's a fair point.
Not that this movie tries to do that, because it actually has some interesting philosophical ideas that it uses as plot points. But I feel like people saw how well it did and was just like, oh, it's because this guy dodged bullets and, did some crazy action moves. And people took that and ran with it. And then you have giant blockbusters with a bunch of CGI, lots of explosions.
Lots of Transformers.
Lots of Transformers, yeah. This movie walked so Transformers could run.
My name is Optimus Prime. We are autonomous robotic organisms from the planet Cybertron. But you can call us Autobots for short.
Autobots.
Was cracking little bitches.
Wow.
Well put.
Why didn't they write that on
That's
the
fucking
box?
deep.
Yeah.
Why didn't they write that on the box?
Because this movie,
Before, I know.
this particular DVD was produced before Transformers by Michael Bay was even a thing.
The boy's pheromone levels suggest he wants to mate with the female.
I guess the argument can be made, like, if a movie has such a cultural impact, is it necessarily bad? Like, Matrix references are everywhere ever since. I think they've died down. I think 2007 specifically they stopped. I don't know why.
Took a decade.
Yeah,
almost.
like for a decade of just Man, sorry.
Sorry, that's pointy.
Keep touching your elbow.
Just
His
making a point,
weenus
just like grabbing my elbow.
Look,
for support.
listen. I'll do it again. Don't worry. Because you're talking about Star Wars, you're talking about Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
even.
Jurassic. I actually
didn't
didn't
talk
talk
about
about
that.
Jurassic Park, but that's absolutely perfect for this discussion.
And you're talking about like spoofs or satire from those films that are so culturally relevant. And those movies are good. Star Wars is good to an extent. Jurassic Park was great.
Jurassic Park is a good fucking movie.
It's Jaws with dinosaurs, in the exact same way that it's being used. Like, I think, I don't know. I guess it's a good movie for that. I mean, Jackson's talking about the impact of like, oh, since they can do that, let's do that and let's incorporate all this terrible CG and visuals. Not terrible, but just let's be lazy with our story and our thematics and just go with the visual. But I think culturally, like us consuming it as audience or whatever, that had its impact, and I think that's the value of the movie. And I think that's as far as it goes. Looking back on it in 2019, like for me consuming this movie, I get the most out of it that's pretty much it. Of having just knowing the impact of the movie. If that makes sense. I might have rambled. That might have been a Josh ramble.
It was a bit of a Josh ramble, but I think your point is that it's difficult to separate the movie from the impact. Watching this again, it's really hard to see it with fresh eyes.
But I was trying to watch it with fresh eyes for the last 10 minutes.
The last 10 minutes that we were able to watch it because we're setting up all these fucking lights.
I mean, like, the dialogue's bad. There's no good dialogue at all. So essentially the writing is bad, and we don't have a plot where we care about the characters. Neo, maybe. You can argue that we kind of care about Neo. But ultimately, like, we don't care about any of the people that he's killing. We were making jokes about, like, these guys that he's just shooting in the face, they have families. But, like, really, we don't give a shit, and, like, there's no impact on that. So, like, from a story-wise, it doesn't really hold up. Visual-wise, I can't argue that because I'm not a visual expert or a technician, or I'm not an engineer. But
you're goddamn right you are.
from the movie, from like watching a movie and just trying to like separate like what I know about this movie, it still doesn't hold up. And the fact that like the philosophical elements are just non-existent after the first third of the movie really kind of is, I don't know, I realize that the most watching it again.
Well, and like I said, that was a lot of the critics' reasoning, because this movie didn't do well critically. In fact, none of the Matrix movies have really done all that well critically. They've been a huge audience success, but not really a critical success. And that's one of the things that they say is that this movie, all of its grand philosophical thematic ideas get completely lost in mindless bullshit action.
So I got it. I hit it on the head.
Yeah, you hit it in its head.
I think it's kind of hard to debate the merits of this movie because it's so it's been established, like what this movie has to offer, and it's really, you could see it everywhere in today's like pop culture, and like the influence of this movie, I guess, like it took its influences and just like spread it like a virus through American culture.
Humans,
Like a computer virus?
humans aren't mammals.
It's a cultural phenomenon, is what I'm trying to say, and
It is, yeah.
And I think it's more along the lines of the experience, like it's you think of your first time watching this movie sometimes, you know, as you rewatch it, you know, you're not necessarily watching it to like because it's an amazing movie. It's because you're thinking back on the first time where you're just like, whoa, like, you know, this idea of living the simulation was just like such a groundbreaking like idea.
Except for it's not.
But when you're like 10 years old, it is.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But so is Transformers.
For this audience, for the
Transformers
intended...
is crazy cool.
You like Transformers. It's
I don't want to talk about it that much because I will go on a rant. You want to hear a rant?
No,
Transformer rant.
no, I don't want to hear Transformer rant because I have something else I want to say, even though I've talked a lot during this episode. So, this movie, its ideas go as far back as fucking ancient Greece.
Mm-hmm.
You have
Platonic relationships.
Plato.
yeah, platonic relationship.
No. You have
Between Neo and...
Plato's allegory of the cave, which is essentially the exact bare bones plot of this movie.
Right.
Care to explain Plato's allegory of the cave for me, please?
Why are you putting me on the spot?
Because you were like, right. We all know it, motherfucker.
You see the light, motherfucker?
Well,
That's what
so,
Plato said one time.
Plato was gaming one day. And as he reached for another bag
He was
of
like, "I need to
spicy
jerk
hot
off."
Cheetos, he saw the shadow of the bag. And he said, wow, people can interpret that as a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos, just a regular bag of Cheetos. Doesn't have to be spicy hot.
Now, to be fair, he was dealing with an illiterate populace at this point, so they wouldn't know, looking at the bag, whether it was Cool Ranch or whether it was spicy or nacho cheese.
So he made this metaphor for the same idea, which is that it's imagine these people living in a cave, and they're tied to a wall, and all they can see are shadows on a wall, and there's people behind them manipulating these shadows and determining what they're seeing. And one day a person is set free, he gets up, he walks outside, and then he sees the real world, he sees the truth, and then
He's blinded by it.
He sees the factory of the chips being made.
he saw the Cheeto dust hitting the potato crisps,
He saw the hair nets, the beard nets. He saw it all.
the health code violations too.
He saw the
good and
14-hour
the bad.
labors, the labor laws.
And so he came back and he offered the red pill or the blue pill.
You
to
mean the
people
Cool
in the
Ranch
cave.
or the,
Cool Ranch or regular
the Cool
Doritos?
Ranch or the
Oh
nacho
God,
Dorito?
I wish there was like a 90s advertisement of Neo holding a spicy hot Cheeto or a Cool Ranch Dorito.
You eat the Cool Ranch Dorito, you wake up. You eat the spicy hot, you have diarrhea tomorrow.
Only gamers are going to get that joke.
So, yes, an apt description of Plato's allegory of the cave. So he comes back to the people and he says, no, there's like this whole other world out there. And the people are like, no, these shadows, this is it. This is all that life is. That's Plato's allegory of the cave. That's like 545 BC or some shit.
Right.
And then the sister companion to that is Plato's concept of forms, which is that we see a tree. We don't actually see the tree for what it is. We see it as like this concept of the tree, this perfect image of a tree. We don't see the actual thing itself, which actually there is now like science that backs up Plato's image of forms, which is that, like, for example, I look at your chair, I don't see the stitches of the chair. I don't see the way that the legs are attached to it or anything like that. I see a chair, and that's all I see. And that's because the brain has to cut down on all of the stimuli that's coming in at all times so that we don't go fucking nuts from it.
We don't see like green numbers coming down everywhere.
We don't see that. But I think it's interesting that now science has, essentially proven Plato.
Man, I got a philosophy 101 class for free.
For free? Nothing's for free.
Oh, that's true. That's it.
If you're married, misery is.
And since everyone stopped watching this when we started talking about philosophy, I'll go ahead and push it one step forward.
Titties. Oh, just gotta get them back.
I've heard like the direct philosophical influence for this movie was Descartes, because he has
You mean Descartes?
Descartes. That's right. Sorry.
Cogito ergo sum.
No, it's Descartes, Baudrillard, and Sartre.
Rene.
Well, Descartes, his idea was that I don't know if any of this is true because God could be making me dream this.
This isn't real. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
And this movie, takes that idea, but it's robots making you dream it.
Robots putting you in a bunch of eggs.
Would it be safe to say that this movie is less than the sum of its parts?
What's that mean?
What I mean by that is that
I'm not too smart.
For all of the amazing talent and thought and ideas that went into this movie from outside influences, for what it actually is, it's kind of lacking. It doesn't necessarily honor or improve upon any of those influences.
I don't think the ending of the movie lives up to the beginning.
Yeah. By the end of the movie, you're like, is this thing over yet or what?
Well, like the beginning of the movie is so well done with like building this world of the Matrix, and then taking you out of that, and then building this interesting world of just like basically this poverty-stricken, humanity in hiding, and then it just like kind of throws you back in the Matrix and be like, wow, look at all this action that's going on here. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The answer is the way you've been describing like all these different people coming onto the film and working on it, whether it's like choreography or visual effects, and then it just sounds like the Wachowskis don't like bring it together, essentially, because if they are directing it and they're writing it, they're not maximizing its potential. And I guess the answer would be yes, it is not the sum of its parts, or is less than. It just seems like you have a really good idea, and then you get bogged down trying to like push off this freshman college like thesis.
Absolutely. It's absolutely freshman college.
Yeah, like it's just not well thought out. Like it reminds me of, or doesn't remind me actually. It so much doesn't remind me of like Run Lola Run, where you have a philosophical idea and you let that play out through a film, and it doesn't beat you over the head with like.
But Run Lola Run has like incredible technical acumen that's backing up all of its themes. It has
right, and that's the point of like this. Like the Wachowskis don't use the technical stuff to help back it up. They essentially are like, well, we have to write something that communicates like what we want to talk about, and so we're just having all these different characters. Basically, Lawrence Fishburne just saying like, you have a choice. This is not your reality. And then we have our one rat face antagonist who like sells everybody out.
Rat Joe Pantaloons.
Joe Pantaloons, baby. You got pantaloons for a face.
So you kind of touched on this when you said that what this movie did is it like normalized special effects as the movie. Right? Like, you don't have to have a plot, you don't have to have characters or anything like that, as long as you have mind-blowing special effects.
I think it opened up the idea that is a good way of making money.
It's a nice crutch, basically.
So you read From Hell, right?
I did.
Do you remember the page where Jack the Ripper he sees himself in the future. He sees himself in office buildings and,
Right.
and all that stuff. And he says to himself, I have given birth to the 21st century. Do you think that the Matrix gave birth to the 20th century, he gave birth. Do you think the Matrix has given birth to the 21st century? 21st?
20 Colin Firth.
Like, would we be living in the same world if the Matrix hadn't come out in, like, 98, 99?
Yeah. I think that even though this movie drives home, like, that idea of like, action, 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 I think it was still brewing before that. So I think it still would have.
But was it ever
this way.
crystallized so well as in this movie? Like, what would it have been? Would Transformers have changed the landscape of culture? Like, that was an existing IP. Everybody knew about Transformers. I think that this is kind of an anomaly. This is truly kind of a special thing, and its influence in culture can't be understated. It's still referenced in,
I think
in movie
it's really
reviews.
highly influential. Yeah, I do. But I think that movies would have continued down the road they're on. This movie just took that direction it was going and took those themes and just like did them really well and showed people how to do it.
I mean, this isn't like the only movie that other movies reference, though. Like, we could do without it. I don't think we need to put too much importance behind this movie specifically.
I don't know. I think that this movie is really important.
It's important because it exists. If it didn't exist, I don't think we needed this movie, though.
That's not what I'm fucking asking.
Yeah, well, you're asking if like this movie changes everything. I don't think it does. That's my answer.
You have really long eyelashes.
Well, that's the Matrix.
So I have a
Matrix.
Matrix philosophical question for you guys. So if you're the character that Josh affectionately refers to as the rat-faced character, and you have the option of living in the Matrix, but for the question's sake, you will know you're living in the Matrix, but you're a celebrity, you are rich, you can basically every desire you have is fulfilled, but you know you're in the Matrix.
But he doesn't know that he's in the Matrix, right?
I know, but for
Oh,
the sake
sorry.
of the question, I guess we could do it both ways.
He's sorry.
Or you have to live in reality, but you know that's real, which I guess is kind of the red pill, blue pill question for Neo as well. What would you choose, red pill or blue pill?
Is that what you're asking?
Except the blue pill, like your life is rad.
When we were talking about the philosophical stuff stops after the first act, the only thing that really keeps it going was Mr. Ratface and him essentially saying like, look, I know that this is for 9 years. I know that this is fake. My brain is telling me that this is real. This steak is not real, but I'm going to pretend that it's real. And that's the only real like interesting element going on for the rest of the movie. And then once he dies, like we completely forgot about it. But like having that question of, do you choose to stay? Like, I guess I don't know. Do you choose to be ignorant? I don't know. Ignorance is bliss, and then they played the.
Yeah.
After 9 years, you know what I realized? Ignorance is bliss.
What would you choose, Josh?
I don't know. Like,
You would be like, I'm gonna stay in the Matrix and eat steak and hang out and
ostensibly
bang hot chicks.
I mean, like, I would just steal. Hopefully, like, I'd be like, hey, can I have one of those really cool hipster sweaters that you guys are all wearing in the spaceship with your holes in it? And then I'll just keep that, and then I'll stay in the Matrix.
that's the only part of reality you want to take with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the film doesn't promise anything of reality either. I don't think Addison likes what I'm saying right now. I think so. What's the argument to stay in this movie specifically?
Stay in reality?
Sorry, not stay. To be outside of the Matrix.
Because reality has an inherent value to you because you know it's real.
But what's the value? If Ratface loses his memory, he knows that the Matrix is real to him. And he's living in wealth, presumably. I doubt that Hugo Weaving would just give him an acting credit. He's spilling beer all over himself. This man needs help.
He's choosing his reality right now.
Choosing to alter it.
Yeah,
Take me away, Mr. Ranger.
they're just living in like a shitty spaceship and being chased by these creepy aliens. There's no promise for it, and the film doesn't give us like, oh, there's greener pastures. It's just like, hey man, this shit's real, and that's what we're telling you.
No, here's the thing, is that this movie, with its collage of influences,
I gotta blow my nose. Sorry.
Yes. Get ready, because that microphone's coming out of your butt. So, here's what I'll say.
Jackson's died.
Jackson is dead.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. As much of a collage of influences that this movie is, it's ultimately sophomoric in its exploration of those ideas.
So better than Freshman.
Sure. It presents them. It doesn't ever at any point offer new insights or new angles on those ideas. And so therefore, that's why I think that this movie is prescient in many ways. Because the rise of pseudo-intellectualism, the rise of false arguments, the rise of all this bullshit came after The Matrix.
So it's a bad thing. Okay. I hear what you're saying.
Oh, welcome back.
Hey, buddy.
Sorry, you guys fired the other guy in his replacement.
Far worse looking replacement, I'll
now
say.
I know why you put these cables underneath the table, so it's a trap.
Yeah.
You've been trapped.
So how does this go again? There we go. Okay. Sorry I ruined your podcast.
Your Black Panther podcast.
Is that a reference?
Just to be clear, we'll never do a Black Panther podcast, not ever.
It's a Forrest Gump reference.
Yeah.
He said, sorry I ruined your podcast?
He said, sorry I ruined your Black Panther party.
Oh, that's right.
When he beats up the guy.
Who slaps Jenny. You don't ever lay a hand on her.
I guess this movie does like make me think of college stoners who will never graduate, constantly arguing about reality and like, what does it really mean, man? Like, just because like I see me doing that doesn't mean that it's actually happening. And then that's as far as the film takes me. And I did enjoy some of the action. I thought it was stupid, but I enjoyed some of it, and that's the movie.
To someone who has not seen this movie, would you recommend it?
To someone? Ugh, that's rough. Okay, so it's like as if someone didn't know what The Matrix was, but was alive in 2019 and has seen a general like collection of movies. Like, I don't think it matters. So I mean, I would recommend it if you're interested in it. If you're like, oh hey, I heard about The Matrix, is that good? Or like, should I see it? I'm like, if you want. That's it. That's as far as my recommendation goes.
Okay, Jackson.
Would I recommend it?
Yeah, to someone who has not seen it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
You think it's required watching?
I think it's worth watching. Is it I don't even know if I would call it a classic. I would call it a cultural phenomenon that is worth watching for the heck of it because it's fun.
I was gonna ask, is it a cult film now? Is it a cult film?
No, because it achieved widespread popularity, so
exactly.
I think it rules out being a cult film.
Yeah.
The back of this DVD cover is amazing, by the way. But go ahead. Go ahead.
It's fucking cancer. just look at this. It's fucking awful.
The copyright or the copy text that they have is just unbelievable that was a thing. But go ahead, Ass. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
Would you recommend it?
I would. I mean, if for no other reason. So, like, when I was growing up, there were like Animaniacs, and there were all these things. There were references to all of these old movies that I'd never seen before. But I like The Shining, for example. Here's Johnny. Like, that was such a ubiquitous cultural reference when I was growing up. And it wasn't until I saw The Shining that I was like, oh, okay, I put the math together. This is important watching if you just want to understand more of the cultural conversation.
Oh man, Shrek loves to reference this movie.
Yes, it does. Shrek.
It's a really good movie.
The original Shrek is good.
The original Shrek is great, but now Shrek has this whole thing of like
Shrek porn.
this like social media relevance of people waiting for Shrek 4, like, which actually Shrek is getting rebooted, which just troubles me to no end.
Shrek tie.
But no, this movie is part of the cultural conversation, the cultural Shrekversation. And so watch it with tempered expectations, because it is absolutely a product of its time. There is nothing necessarily modern about this. We were talking about it for as much as they kind of like conceived this weird alternate reality, there was no forward thinking necessarily, as far as like people were still on flip phones and there were still fucking pay phones around. Give me a break.
Give him a break.
Give me a break. No, go, watch the fucking movie.
It's a fun movie. It's fun. And I'm slightly terrified that I do actually hate all popular movies.
You do. That's your thing. That's why I said it in the mic when I was substituting for you. Real quick, we have literally 1 minute.
I'm ashamed.
Matrix 2 and Matrix 3, go.
I don't remember 2. 3 is an abomination.
I remember flying around in spaceships. I don't know if that was 2 or 3, but that's it.
They get in spaceships?
I don't know.
Well, they're in spaceships, even in the first one, the Nebuchadnezzar, with the hard
Wait,
ER, as he said.
The hard R.
Bowsy Canauser?
Anyway,
What? Where am I?
I'll just tell this.
Is this real?
This quick anecdote.
Please tell me you got on the chat room access.
Oh, absolutely, I did. Yeah, and I also watched all of the special features, which was just Keanu Reeves falling back on a blue, like Matt over and over again. No, so Matrix 2 came out, and it was a big fucking thing. Talk about a cultural landmark, cultural event.
Sure, it's the
Matrix
follow-up.
2 was huge. So it coincided with Enter the Matrix, which was a video game for Xbox by Shiny Entertainment, who I think is sadly no more. But you had a video game, and then you had a sequel, which had Jada Pinkett Smith in it. Anyways, I had just started smoking weed at the time. Thank you, Matrix. And
trying to escape your reality.
Exactly. And I had gone home before we went to go see like the Friday screening of the movie, and we smoked a bowl, me and my buddy Houdini. And for some reason, I just left the pipe out. I don't know why. I just left it out. I didn't put it away.
Crackhead mistake.
Typical crackhead. Because I figured, like, no one's going to come home by the time I'm done with the movie.
Like on the kitchen table?
No. It was in my room.
Okay.
So we went to EB Games, and I picked up Enter the Matrix, and I picked up the Enter the Matrix strategy guide. And then we went to the theater, and we watched the movie, and I had this weird feeling in me the whole time I watched it, which wasn't because it was a bad movie, which it is. And then I went home, and my dad's car was already in the driveway, and I was like, fuck. And I went downstairs, and he had my pipe, and he was like, what is this? And et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, the Enter the Matrix ruined my fucking life.
He was holding the red pill in his hand.
He was.
What's this?
And I said, put me back to sleep, Daddy. Put me back to sleep. Anyways, if for any reason, questions, concerns, comments, thoughts about my weird set eyes or pallid skin, Jackson's AIDS, Joshua's...
Wow, so AIDS is funny now.
or Josh's mixed race status. I know that troubles some of you. Please email us at tobehonestcast@gmail.com.
Give it to us one more time.
tobehonestcast@gmail.com. And if you have YouTube on your cell phones, look at this motherfucker. I already got it out. I haven't even finished the outro, and this motherfucker already got it out.
I've heard it before.
tobehonestcast@gmail.com. Please follow us at To Be Honest Cast on YouTube, wherever you get your YouTube, as well as soundcloud.com/To Be Honest Cast. Please listen to our shit.
Support artists.
Jack will suck you off.
I have medical bills.
This guy is...
I'm sick.
Bye.